The Green Ember series by S.D. Smith. Heather and Picket are just your ordinary rabbits who are playing in a field until one day their father starts to tell them about a king struck down, but whose Camelot prophecy can come about. Before they learn more, their house is attacked. Now they must run with someone who's claiming to be their uncle they have never met and his friend. They must escape the wolves and the hawks and see if they can join the fight for the rise of the new kingdom and peace for rabbit kind. Review. I will get thrown out of the homeschooling community for this review. I, too, joined the sacrilege of the small group of Christian homeschool parents that was very disappointed with this book. I do have to say that my 7-year-old enjoyed it and said she would continue the series, and I'm not opposed to having her do that. There isn't anything vulgar or cruel or any other red flag that comes with modern-day literature here. I also did appreciate that she did say that she enjoyed The Hobbit more, which we finished together before this book. She wants to continue the Lord of the Rings series next. I'm obviously raising them right. What drove me to really not liking this book is the pacing and the prose. In there is the setting and the story for a good series. While I can see parallels of wanting it to be like Lord of the Rings meets Watership Down, but it's just not using a story that happens to involve anthropomorphized rabbits and wolves and etc. to this light fantasy story. The opening and the ending are also strong for the story, with the ending lifting up my crestfallen take a bit. Let me start with the pacing of the book first, as I think if this was made 200 or less pages, it would be a bit more to stomach. The book has a lot of running. The first third of the story is almost a number of the main characters running, and too much so. After they are done running, they stop and they run some more. The arc of this part of the story doesn't allow for the tension to release, and everything is hurried too much. I get they are rabbits, and so running is a thing for them. However, the author makes it a point of having the characters talk about how they're almost out of energy. But then there are 3 more running scenes. After that, almost 2/3 of the book moves us to a single location and a dead stop of getting to know the space where the revelations and plot spread out quite a bit to the crawling pace. Where I thought this book was going to run me right out of the pages at the beginning and not let any release from the tension, it does just the opposite of that in the middle, and that's where it was a chore to get through. The second big issue I had with the book is the plot and motivation. Our main character learn about this King Jupiter, only slightly, and are completely enamored and worshipping of him. They dream about him, cry over him, and long for him. But they are barely told anything, and we're not even sure the initial tale is about a real king. There is no real description of what made him great, or anything of real inspiration to drive the characters until a full telling of the legend almost 2/3 of the way into the book. What motivation they should have had was on the missing family, which really takes a backseat as any sort of understandable driving factor. The 2 main characters are pretty annoying too. I understand that they're young and this type of character trait would be a normal characteristic. However, the author uses it as motivation for both, and it's not clear why they take the position they do. Heather is an allegedly amazing storyteller, but she's too scared to commit to it. Why? No clue. She is also always insightful and pretty much correct on all things except when the story calls on her not to be for the sake of the plot reveal. Picket is really turned off to another main character, and he feels like he failed. He recognizes he doesn't have any real reason to feel the way he does, but he just commits to it. The author uses this as a character arc for him, but it doesn't really endear him to the reader, and it doesn't really make sense for the arc he wants to be on. There is an arc in him, and you could have had it, but by growing up quickly due to war and loss, but mostly it's about him overcoming whininess, and barely so. Characters around them also move at a snail's pace. The revelation, but for no real reason except for this not-so-secret initiation ritual, yet characters still give them a grand tour and free reign around this super-secret compound to get to the ritual that takes forever from their first arrival. A loss of any sense of time gripped me in this book. Days, months. Minor characters only treat them worse after the main character realize the bigger story. And their reaction is those revelations are pretty over the top for anyone their age and removal from this world. For example, they are concerned about a possibility of loss of honor, and denying betrayal are met with a literal outcry. Do they have any clue what honor is or why it matters in this family context? That's really unclear. The writing of it is all very clunky and disjointed. That mixed with the pacing of it makes it a real chore to keep going. There are a few plot points and characters that go towards there being a good story in there. However, the too fast and then too slow pacing, the poor character development works against it. I'm sure I'll be tied to a stake and poked with little swords while listening to the next one as punishment, but this just wasn't a well-written book. Final grade, D.